Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Anne-Marie Sim.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Pro-democracy leaders deny wrongdoing in accepting millions donated by media tycoon Jimmy Lai.
Rush hour chaos on MTR as signal failure hits West Rail line.
Pro-Russian rebels in Ukraine hand over crashed Malaysian planes' black boxes to international investigators. Media tycoon Jimmy Lai and leaders of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement have denied any wrongdoing after details of millions he donated to them were leaked to the press.
One of the recipients, former Chief Secretary Anson Chan, called it a smear campaign, while veteran Democrat Martin Lee complained that potential donors were being intimidated.
Lai himself brushed off accusations that he's paying people to make trouble and urged more businessmen to help the pan-Democrats.
Local newspapers today were awash with reports on Hong Kong's most high-profile democracy advocates accepting donations from media tycoon Jimmy Lai. They were supplied leaked records by someone claiming to be a shareholder of Next Media, Lai's flagship company which publishes the popular Apple Daily newspaper. It also detailed Lai's talks with Taiwan opposition veteran Xi Ming-tae on the Occupy Central campaign. Lai's support for the city's democratic movement is hardly a secret, but the leaked information has given Beijing loyalists ammunition to criticise him. According to the leaked papers, Lai donated more than $40 million to pan-democratic parties and politicians since April 2012. That includes $10 million to the Democratic Party and $6 million to the Civic Party. Labour Party leader Lee Cheuk-yan allegedly received $1.5 million, while the League of Social Democrats' Leung Kwok-hung is said to have pocketed $1 million from Lai. In an interview with his own paper today, the media mogul insisted that he's not a politician and doesn't interfere in the operations of the political parties he supports, so it wasn't wrong to donate to them. He said he would be happy to see more businessmen helping the pan-Democrats because they are very poor. He also dismissed accusations of colluding with foreign countries to provoke unrest in Hong Kong. Former Chief Secretary Anson Chan hit back after she was named as the recipient of $3.5 million from Lai. She suggested it was an orchestrated smear campaign intended to intimidate potential donors to pro-democracy causes. Chan insisted there was nothing wrong with political parties and individuals receiving donations without conditions from those who supported their cause. The convener of think tank Hong Kong 2020 warned that judges might be the next targets so as to raise suspicions about their independence. Democratic Party founder Martin Lee complained that the revelations had discouraged some of his friends with businesses on the mainland from donating money to the party. Democratic Party chairwoman Emily Lau noted there are currently no laws in Hong Kong regulating the disclosure of political donations or requiring parties to reveal donors. Lau stressed that donors to her party may want to remain anonymous for fear of being found out by Beijing. Leung Kwok-hung refused to talk about the money he received from Lai.
The League of Social Democrats will have two rules. First one is that we will not accept the conditional donation. Second one, we will not disclose the donators. So, as a president of the chairperson of the LSD, I cannot do more than this. But for any liability, of course, as an individual, as a legislator, it's my problem. It's not the problem of the League of Social Democrats.
Stanley Yeung, chairman of the Beijing Loyalist Federation of Trade Unions, suggested that Occupy Central was being manipulated by the media tycoon. That's because the documents also revealed that an NGO co-founded by one of the core organisers of the civil disobedience movement, Chu Yu-ming, had apparently received $400,000 from Lai.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has urged pro-democracy lawmakers to make use of the coming few weeks and discuss their concerns about political reform with Beijing officials.
He promised to help arrange talks as long as lawmakers are willing to make an effort and meet him halfway.
With only 5 weeks to go before the National People's Congress Standing Committee is expected to lay down the rules for the 2017 chief executive election, Leung Chun-ying called on lawmakers to use the time wisely by holding more talks with mainland officials on electoral reform, so a consensus can be reached. Ahead of his weekly cabinet meeting this morning, the chief executive said there were positive results from the government's previous efforts to get lawmakers and Beijing officials talking, such as the April trip to Shanghai. But without naming the pan-Democrats, Yeung noted that some political parties had failed to follow up on the success of that trip by continuing to meet liaison office officials when they got back to Hong Kong. The chief executive vowed to try and set up more meetings between lawmakers and the central government, but he made it clear that it was up to all sectors, irrespective of their views, to create an atmosphere conducive to constitutional reform discussion. The pan-Democrats have been complaining that they've been snubbed by NPC chairman Yeung, who has held 3 days of talks in Shenzhen with Beijing loyalists from Hong Kong. Former Justice Chief Elsie Leung today advised opposition lawmakers not to set too many preconditions if and when they're invited to meet Beijing officials to discuss political reform. Leung, who is now vice chairwoman of the Basic Law Committee, said both sides should show sincerity during the talks and warned that too many preconditions would result in a stalemate and failure to reach a consensus. In response, Democratic Party chairwoman Emily Lau insisted her party is willing to meet Beijing officials here or across the border, so they can highlight the public's suspicions about the prospect of only an official nominating committee picking candidates for the top job.
We do not have any precondition. We are very happy to meet with them. Members of the Democratic Party have discussed this with other pan-Democrats, and I think we all agree to meet them, whether in Hong Kong or in mainland China. We are very happy to meet with officials in Beijing to tell them our wishes and concerns, and to explain to them the dire consequences in Hong Kong if we fail to achieve a method for electing the chief executive by direct election and getting that passed in LegCo.
Lau, who doesn't have a home return permit, reiterated that she personally will not join any meetings on the mainland until she can travel freely there. But she promised members of her party will accept an invitation.
There's been rush hour chaos on the MTR's West Rail line after it was hit by a signalling failure this afternoon.
Commuters had to wait up to 12 minutes to catch trains as the MTRC urged them to take buses instead. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
Another rush hour nightmare on the MTR. Packed trains are pulling into Nam Chung Station on the West Rail line and stalling there as passengers on the platform piled on board. The MTRC announced at around 5 p.m. that a signal failure had struck Hsu Hong and Nam Chung stations. Investigations revealed a mechanical fault, possibly due to a lightning strike during thunderstorms this afternoon. The MTRC was forced to operate trains at 8-minute intervals between Hung Hom and Tin Shui Wai, and at 12-minute intervals between Tin Shui Wai and Tuen Mun. Announcements were made and staff deployed to help and guide stranded commuters. Shortly before 6 p.m., the railway firm told people to use bus services to Tuen Mun, Yuen Long, Tin Shui Wai, or Kam Tin, and to avoid the West Rail line altogether. It then announced that the end of the line between Hsu Hong and Tuen Mun was closed because of the signal failure. Last month, the East Rail line was hit by severe disruptions because of a burst water main near Fo Tan Station. Hundreds of passengers were stranded after a damaged overhead line brought trains to a halt. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Mainland authorities have expanded their investigations into the Shanghai rotten meat scandal to factories in 5 provinces run by the US-based OSI Group.
In Hong Kong, the Centre for Food Safety is unable to say whether those factories supply meat to fast food chains here. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
Investigations into a stomach-churning scandal have spread to 5 mainland provinces after a Shanghai factory was found to be processing food items from rotten meat. As the probe was launched, officials in 2 other provinces, Sichuan and Zhejiang, confiscated 17 million tons of beef, chicken, and pork products made by mainland factories of US-based OSI Group from warehouses and outlets of fast food giants. These included McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut, and Deco's, which earlier said they were scrapping orders from the Shanghai Husi Food Company the OSI unit, which sparked the scandal. The expose aired by Shanghai-based Dragon Television on Sunday shocked fast food lovers. The China Food and Drug Administration has now ordered checks on all mainland factories under OSI. The Shanghai plant was shut down after investigators found evidence that expired meat had been reprocessed and repacked with new shelf lives. China's food watchdog ordered local officials in Hebei, Shandong, Henan, Guangdong, and Yunnan provinces to investigate all food factories operated by OSI. In Hong Kong, the Center for Food Safety confirmed that there are no records of meat products from Husi coming into Hong Kong in the past year, but it could not confirm if products from other OSI units have been imported by local restaurants. This means local consumers have no idea whether the meat they're eating at fast food restaurants here could be expired as well. Hong Kong's fast food chains have only confirmed they're not supplied by Shanghai Husi. OSI established its 10th mainland factory in April last year. A press release from 2012 says Papa John's, Burger King, and Subway were also its customers. According to the company's website, its factories in Langfang and Guangzhou, as well as its Shanghai plant, were all qualified to export to Hong Kong. Winna Wong, ATV News.
Hong Kong was hit by severe air pollution today, making it unsafe for children, the elderly, and people with respiratory problems to venture out in most parts of the city. The health risk was considered serious in Kwai Chung, Tsuen Wan, Yuen Long, Tuen Mun, Tai Po, and Sha Tin. When the air is this bad, the government advises children, the elderly, and people with heart or lung ailments to stay indoors. In the central and western districts, the health risk was very high.
Overseas, a train carrying the remains of many of the victims of a Malaysian plane that crashed in eastern Ukraine last week has arrived in the city of Kharkiv, which is outside rebel-held territory.
Pro-Russian rebels in the area where the aircraft went down handed over 2 black boxes to Malaysian officials, as Australia accused the separatists of tampering with evidence on an industrial scale.
The remains of most of the 298 people on board Malaysia Airlines' ill-fated flight MH17 completed the first lap of their journey home this evening. A refrigerated train pulled into the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv after leaving rebel-held areas where the Boeing 777 crashed last Thursday, apparently after being hit by a missile. From Kharkiv, the remains in about 200 body bags will be taken to the Netherlands for identification and investigation. 2/3 of those on board the flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur were Dutch. Pro-Russian separatists and the Ukrainian forces they've been fighting have blamed each other for downing the passenger plane. In another breakthrough today, rebel leader Alexander Borodai, who heads the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, returned to Malaysia equipment that could yield clues about the plane's final moments.
And I would like to convey our sincere appreciation to His Excellency
Я выражаю искреннюю признательность его превосходительству господину Бородаю
giving us the opportunity
за то, что он дал нам возможность
and attain our request,
и принял во внимание нашу особую просьбу
for handing over the 2 black box to the Malaysia.
По поводу передачи 2 черных ящиков Малайзии.
This is a property of Malaysia.
The rebels' cooperation today contrasted sharply with their behavior in the days immediately after the crash, when they denied European inspectors access to the fields where debris and bodies lay scattered. Australia, which lost 28 citizens in the crash, lashed out at the rebels.
After the crime comes the cover-up. What we have seen is evidence tampering on an industrial scale, and obviously that has to stop.
Abbott urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to keep his promise to help in the investigation. An Australian resolution for those responsible to be held accountable was passed unanimously by the UN Security Council. Russia voted in favor after the wording was changed to say the plane was downed instead of shot down. Australia also demanded access to the crash site.
It is despicable that this access is not being provided. It is an affront to the victims and their families. All states, armed groups, everyone must cooperate with the investigation.
The resolution said the separatists must not destroy evidence.
Armed thugs have walked around the site with little regard for where they step. We have literally heard the sound of debris, all of it evidence that needs to be carefully preserved, crunching beneath their feet.
China's representative Liu Jieyi pledged support for an independent, impartial and objective investigation. Russia's ambassador to Malaysia backed the call.
The rebels, as we understand, do not trust the government of Kiev. That's why they were reluctant to hand over the black boxes to the Ukrainian side, because they are afraid that the evidence will be tampered with.
Russia has been threatened with stiffer penalties for backing the rebels, but Moscow hit back, saying Ukrainian military jets had flown close to the Malaysian plane.
I want to make it very clear. In Russia, we're not playing these games that our Western counterparts is engaging very much into, blaming someone and accusing some parties without any evidence.
Russia accused the pro-Western government in Kiev of exploiting the international community's shock over the crash to step up attacks on cities in eastern Ukraine, killing civilians there.
Still to come on ATV's main news tonight. Man arrested on suspicion of killing younger brother in money dispute in Kuntong.
And Israel denounced after tank fire hits Gaza hospital, killing 5 Palestinians.